So yeah, so let's just sit quietly for a few moments, and just rest and begin to acknowledge our body, our mind, our heart as this inner refuge that we are putting this time aside to mostly to rest and to quiet down and to explore, and then the container of just immense and deep gratitude. And now the exploration of yoga. Okay, well, very good. What I would like you to do is I would like you to get out, if you do have a large bolster, have a large bolster. If you don't have a large bolster, we're going to come into a backward bend, but I would like the entire body supported. So if you have the large bolster, we're going to sit in front of it long ways and just bring the body over it and tuck the lower back in. So most of you know this, just a nice, simple, supported backward bend. But I'm going to show it with the pillows because I think there may be a few new people that might not have the bolsters. And it works just as well with the right configuration of blankets. So what I might do here is I'd have the pillows to tuck into my lower back, and then I have a collection of blankets and a towel to then support the upper body. So we don't want the upper body to dangle. We want the whole body to be supported. So you basically sit on the floor, bring these pillows, and just work with it a little bit. So we have some compression, just a little bit of compression to the lower back. See, this is perfect, this pillow configuration. Yes, and then my upper body can be supported. So the head's not dangling, the buttocks is on the floor. So you feel that you can stay here and relax and just let the compression, slowly and gently work its way into the body. So it's nothing harsh or forceful. So just settle into that. And that being said, if you are using the large bolster and you still feel, everyone's feeling the tension very differently, obviously, but you may even at some point want to put a little something under the neck just to support the neck again. So we have the compression and the discomfort at a relatively mild, somewhere between mild and moderate. But so at a certain point, you're just really feeling tremendously relaxed and open, and just feeling that this compression can just be received to the body, that we're not pushing anything. I think I already said that. So just relax. I want to open with a reading from Job's body. And if there are any areas of the body that don't feel relaxed or feel a little tentative or unsafe or that you're not sure of, go ahead and make some readjustments. If the lower back is feeling like it's holding too much contraction, you can sit up on another blanket or a small towel. Again, if you need something under the neck. Yeah, very good to relax the jaw, relax the face, relax your eyes. Maybe even want to just open the mouth a bit, move the jaw side to side. Maybe take a couple of deeper breaths with the intention to just feel if there's any restriction in the lungs, the inhalation, opening the lungs up a bit, opening the capacity to breathe. Exhaling, knowing that you're releasing the carbon dioxide and toxins, and just feeling a very nice flow in the breath, or just really checking in with the breath. So basically just settling in to your body, relaxing your mind. And last class I was talking, and I went into some great detail, maybe a little bit too much detail for some of us. I know it certainly was for me, but I was making a distinction between exploring ourselves situationally. And what I mean by situation is anything that appears as an object to us outside of us, our thoughts or the sensations in the body, our environment, whatever it is, all of these circumstances that come and go. So exploring ourselves that way, as opposed to the option to explore ourselves vibrationally. So this is just something to explore when issues come up or whatever arises. It doesn't matter. It can be even a pleasant memory or a concern about the future or that one nagging thing in your body. Doesn't matter. To settle back from, to relax from all of the circumstances and situations that we can hold in such a pattern and a configuration, and start to explore what it means to feel yourself vibrationally. And even if we don't know what that means, we don't have to. Just feel it. Just feel the aliveness and the openness and the flow of your body. So I'd like to share this reading for us to begin, and if you could just listen to this, it's relatively short, and then really, as most of you know, there's really nothing more to listen to. I will ask you to listen to nothing else. It's not necessary, but this is really very just so relevant to this practice, so relevant to our overall health and well-being, and just sense of awakening in our life and into the world. And again, this comes from Job's body. The two things are necessary in order for me to break these vicious circles that erode my constitution and my health: self-awareness and the will to participate actively in my own development. I need self-awareness to be able to accurately assess my situation as it stands, the locations of my parts and the qualities of their functions. And beyond that, I need to persevere over time in this self-awareness so that I can gain an understanding of my various systems' plasticity and the ways in which they alter according to my experiences and my responses. In addition to this expanding self-awareness, I also need the exertion of my will, the will to focus my attention upon symptoms I would often rather avoid, and the will to actively intervene in the personal habits and tendencies I perceive to be self-destructive. Both of these things, awareness and will, are personal, active principles. I must voluntarily open myself up to the messages my body is sending me. I must consciously seek out the information that will clarify and complete my body image. And I must mentally and physically engage myself in the internal events which my awareness reveals if I am to have any hope of positively affecting their course. Active personal involvement is absolutely crucial to this process of self-discovery and self-development. The only facts about myself that are altogether real to me are those that have come to me through my own attentiveness. And the only knowledge that is of any practical value is the knowledge I can actually use in the formation of my patterns of behavior. For these endeavors, the mind does not need ideas about the body that can be read or told. It needs physical movement and concrete sensations. the raw data that directly informs, that activates the reflexes, and that organizes patterns. So this willingness to genuinely relax, to come into a state of internal quietude, a balance of harmony in the heart that we really value. We really value this relaxation. It's not just a quick time out between activities, but this is where we really get to listen at the level that I was just reading about. This is where we really get to sink in and let go of all of the way that we're holding our life and our mind and our body. Relax below all these patterns and just listen to this rhythm, this flow, this vibration of the body. And as Dean said, to be able to listen to symptoms that we would rather avoid. And these are not simply purely physical symptoms. This is just anything really that makes us feel uncomfortable. Anything that triggers our insecurity, that triggers fear, that triggers contraction. These are all symptoms attempting to guide us into deeper, more intelligent areas. So we don't need to do this directly. We don't need a map from A to B. We just allow ourselves this inner refuge of deep, trusting relaxation. And then the intelligence of this vibration, the intelligence of the body at a very profound level starts to guide us. So anything that arises that doesn't feel comfortable, that feels like a symptom of contraction or fear, doesn't matter the words, start to listen to that, start to sit quietly with these symptoms and welcome them. And very slowly, very gently, with the utmost care, just begin to fill your lungs as much as you're able to feel some resistance, and then empty your lungs. So again, feeling and exploring the actual volume and capacity of your lungs, but very slowly. And also to explore that the inhalation and the exhalation are not opposites. It's just one continuous life-enhancing flow. So especially when we slow down and we're doing this a little below the surface, just to feel the presence of actually filling the lungs up and noticing what that feels like, and emptying the lungs as slowly as possible, and noticing the subtlety that's involved with this. And wherever your mind takes you to, this is what I'm calling circumstances. This is what I'm calling situational, a situation. Just allow it to be. So try not to judge it, try not to get entangled with it, get involved with it, but simply watch that the mind has this capacity to just come into your field, if you will. But then it also passes away. So we're allowing this to happen. And at the same time, we're not interested in that. We're exploring what does it mean to feel ourselves vibrationally. And so we're not going to use language, we're not going to use imagery to explore that, because that'll bring us right back into the realm of the mind, to the circumstances. So whatever your circumstances, whatever your ups and downs and ins and outs of your thinking mind, your intellectual mind, let that be. Let that be as if there's just clouds in the sky that are coming and going. They dissipate. They form and they dissipate. And then sink into your beingness at this vibrational level. And then allow the definitions again to just dissipate and feel. How does this feel? How do you feel at this level? Not how do you think you feel, but how do you feel? Good. So let's put your feet on the floor And just have a little safe movement here, nice and slow, just to kind of work out any muscular tightness that may have accumulated. So soften it, whatever movement feels good. Unless, of course, in this practice, if you ever come into an interesting place and you feel like you're much better to stay and go a little longer, you know, give yourself that, that permission. You know, always give yourself permission first and foremost to follow your own, you know, somatic intelligence and your somatic intuition. So each one of these postures is just a general framework that I'm suggesting to explore, but always we're exploring the same thing. We're always exploring ourselves from this, this deeper movement of really of internal information. So when I say vibration, vibration is how the information moves throughout your body, how all of your organs and your conditions and your patterning is informing each other. And then when you're ready with this movement, unless you're going to stay in, let's roll off of whatever you have been on, and we'll take a bit of a rest here. So just make yourself comfortable. You can curl up on your side. You can lie flat on your back, whatever feels best. And since this particular approach to the body-mind is really based on the really the honoring and the respecting of the intelligence of pain and discomfort, one of the things that we can start to explore, and certainly don't take my word for this, this is a very deep exploration, but whenever we are in pain, yes, and this is a symptom, it's reflecting something, a physical pain, emotional pain, psychological pain, pain in relation to our environment, that what we get to explore, if we're willing to really respect this discomfort, if we're willing to sit with it without judgment, we can see that at some point this pain either has served us or is serving us. And so when we begin to make the connections, make the transformations, make the changes that we need to make to release this pain, to see that it no longer is serving us, it will tend to dissipate and shift and change and release on its own. So basically what I'm saying is we don't want to create a contrary or a judgmental relationship with our discomfort, because some of this discomfort has gotten embedded in the system long ago. Yes, especially when we were children and young, oftentimes pain was serving us. It had a function. So it becomes this sort of complexity of our relationship to just the general discomfort of life from the body and the mind outward. So each and every one of these positions, these yoga postures, is meant to have a level of discomfort. It's meant to bring us closer to something that doesn't feel comfortable. And this can just come from, you know, really feeling the breath. You know, all sorts of things get restricted and caught up in our breathing patterns that are reflecting anxiety and certain fears in our thinking and certainly our body. So this is why the relaxation, this is why the safety, and this is why just going into these postures and setting them up, so then you can relax and see what is my fundamental relationship to this discomfort, pain symptom that on some level possibly is or has, or I believe will serve me, and how do I get to sort of tease that away and come into the present where I can examine this firsthand. Okay, so let's come on up and yeah, we're going to do a little more backward bending. This is going to be somewhat of a backward bending class, so please bear with it. So let me show you, I'll show you a modification for the knee and for the backward bend. So if you're able to, first version would be to extend the left leg out and just bend the right knee in. Yeah, so this, for some of you, this may be not accessible. I understand, especially if there's long held tightness or injury in the knee. They're very tricky joints. So even if this is not accessible to you, then take that right leg and just put it on the inside. So we'll get a similar forward bend. Obviously, we won't get as much, a little bit, but not as much tension in that right knee. But if you're able to, what we're going to do is we're going to first come forward in this position, this saddle position. So we'll first come into a forward bend. And if you need some support, use your bolsters or a pillow, or just let your body dangle down as it will. And then we're going to come out of this, yes, out of this forward bend, and we're going to come back. So if your quadricep and the psoas area is tight in here, there's a good chance this knee will want to come up when we go back. Perfectly fine to do that. May want a little softening under the ankle if this is too much on the ankle, but lovely ankle stretch as well. So first thing would be come back without any support at all. The knee, let it do what it will. If you're feeling like you want to try this, but you need some more support, then put the large bolster or a series, again, of pillows and blankets to support the whole body. Yeah, so this is just lovely to start to loosen up the quadricep and ultimately the big muscle of the psoas. Yeah, and then if you are keeping this right knee on the inside here, then not to just lay flat back because we still want to affect the backward bend. So then I've put a rolled up towel under my lumbar spine, keeping my buttocks on the floor. So again, you can still get the mild knee bend, but now we're getting pretty much the same backward bend that we would have affected if we kept this bent and came back. But that's the second part. So the first part is left leg out, knee bent back if it's possible and accessible to you. If it's not accessible, then we just modify, we just approach wherever we can. We're getting the basic areas, just not as specifically as I'm recommending. Yep. And then coming, well, no. So I'm just going to show it like this, but you know the modification. So left leg out, just come forward and just feel where the lumbar is tugging. If it's tugging, you can come over to the left or the right a little bit. Ideally, at some point, we'll just place the forehead on the floor to the left of that, to the right of that left leg. But ideally, could be a few days off. So if you need to use your bolster, and then just relax. And really, it's so beautiful when you begin to just sink into your body with no agenda. We're not trying to fix it or make anything so it doesn't hurt anymore. And from this place of no agenda and just relaxing, it then allows us to access just different energies. This is what I'm calling vibration. And sometimes, yes, they are mental energies. We can notice that, yes, my mind has just gone off, almost in that dreamlike state, or we just begin to fall asleep, or sometimes something that is such a non sequitur and non-linear, we're not even sure where it came from. It doesn't really matter. What we're really wanting to do is celebrate that this physicality, the mental body, the subtle body, the emotional body, any other bodies you want to add, have a very profound intelligence. And so we don't have to micromanage our experience. We can just trust and drift in. And sometimes the insight is given in a way that we don't experience it for weeks later. Other times it's in such a way that it takes days to unfold. So just allow yourself to really just marinate in the intelligence of your own being. This is also, part of the gratitude that I invited us to open with. It's from this perspective of our yoga, it's not gratitude for this or that. It's gratitude for the fact that we exist, that we are existence, and how amazing that we get to experience that existence in this complex, miraculous body mind vehicle, and to really get to know the texture of this existence, that yes, I exist, and that this existence has a great desire to evolve. And when we start to trust that, this opens up a certain level of flow that just can uh, that we can trust. We don't have to work so hard. We don't have to try so hard when we understand that we are existence itself, and that this existence has a great desire to evolve. So if you're forward, either with the leg bent back, the right leg, or the leg up and in, just come on up. And so now you have to decide, you're either going to just keep this right leg where it is bent back and come into the backward bend. I would go first to the forearms and check in, see how tight the quad is and how the ankle is feeling. Again, use some support if you need that, as much support as you like. You can even build this up a little bit. And I mean, this is very nice. It tends to deepen because it's lessening some of the compression here. It's deepening the backward bend a bit, yeah. And or if the knee is not ready for this and you have it here, or you want to put it here, just put something under the lower back, and then we'll come into the backward bend this way. And always having the opportunity to come back to your breathing, but as a presence, to feel the presence of the breath, not as a manipulation, not as an exercise, not as a pranayama, but to breathe and feel the I was going to say the complexity, yes, sometimes the simplicity of the breath, but in a way, the completeness of the breath. Is there a point where the breath ends and the body begins, or the mind begins, or life begins? So the comprehensiveness of your breathing and its connection and its relationship um, to everything, really. And we can feel this when we relax and we remove uh, the need to explore the breath mechanically, and just to breathe, just to feel qualities, presence, connection. And this intelligence that I'm pointing to, we can't really think our way to it. This is the sort of the distinction I've been trying to make between our circumstances and our, vibrational essence. And part of this can be very practical when we really feel the sense of relief and relaxation, that we're not having to worry about alignment or bone or tendon or fascia, organs, cells. What are those things except labels? But vibrationally, there's so much going on. Vibrationally, we can become more and more subtle. So we're not worried about the bones. We're not worried about the joints. We're not worried about the angle of the hip or the tightness of the knee. But all of this is vibrating. All of this is in this flow of information throughout your body, and we want to sink into this at a non-verbal, non-judgmental level. Good. So if you still have your right knee bent back, I think the best way to release here is just to start to roll over to the left side, and that right leg can just open out, and then we'll just lay flat on your back. If you have that right leg up and in, you can straighten it out, put your feet on the floor, bring the hips up, remove whatever you had for your backward bend, and then we'll both will lay flat and relax. And certainly part of this relaxation is just an awareness that your body itself is responding to the compression. This is fundamental and basic to what we're doing, is to feeling this, oh, I'm holding a compression, a contraction intentionally, and now I've released it. How does that feel? And from everything that I've experienced and in my studies over the years, this is fundamental to everything in the body, to everything in our life, that it's contracting and it's expanding. And the yoga is how we find balance with that flow. Too expanded, not so good. Too contracted, not so good. So we each have our own individual relationship to the most primal energy I think that there is. Vibration, contraction, expansion. Okay, so let's come on up, and before we do the other side, so this time obviously we'll let the right leg go out and either bring the left leg in or to the side, same thing, but I'm having some technical difficulty that I have to show you here. So I'm just going to turn my computer a bit. That on my props there's a young man. His name is Freddie Little Dog Mercury. So I don't know how I'm going to use those props if I have to show you, because I think it's sort of a cardinal sin to disturb a cat that's napping, even if they're on yoga props. So we'll just have to work around him. So don't pay no attention to that cat on the props there. Okay, so let's get back to it. Right leg is extended out, left leg is in, or not. Again, if you want to keep the left leg this way, then we'll just come forward in our usual half butterfly. But this is such a nice option. So again, you can do it supported with something holding up the upper body, or you can just come to your forearms and check it out. This can come way up if it needs to. Something maybe softening for the ankle, the arch of the foot. And then, but we're going to come, that would be second. First, we're going to come forward. So I'm just showing you the options. So once we've been forward for a while, we don't have to go over them again. So either way, we're going to come forward here first, relax into it, soften. And that, the little dog there is doing, that's really advanced yoga, that he does not need yoga asanas at all. He goes right to Shavasana and just is being the cat, does what a cat does. No downward dogs for him. Just going back for a moment to what I read when we opened from Dean, and what he was saying, that ultimately that the mind does not need more ideas of something that we're being told or something we read in how to really take care of ourselves. And obviously that's relative. Sometimes we get some information that we want to apply, but what he's really suggesting is that the the willingness to really listen to this balance, to listen to this flow, to listen and not push away the symptoms, is just incredibly valuable. And this becomes very personal. And so we want to personalize it. We don't want to take a template and just stamp it on our experience. That the body, the mind, the heart are always trying to give us information. They're always trying to share something with us. So really the yoga is a sensitivity. It's a sensitivity to the information that is present within us, that is present without us, and how to navigate with that and make our way. And it's very it's one of the deeply beautiful and transformational aspects of yoga, that it's not this template of one size fits all with trying to accomplish an agenda and make something happen. Even to feel better, it's to sink into ourselves as this incredibly intelligent being of existence, if you will. Good, so we can come up from here. So if you know what you're doing in terms of how you're going to keep this leg, go ahead back as you come up. If you've had it bent back and this is enough, then again, the reminder is you can just bring it on the inside and relieve it, and then we'll put a small roll for the lower back. You can leave it bent and use some bolstering to support the backward bend and have the knee bent back, or you can just come back without it. And I would just check in and make sure each side is always a little bit different. So just work your way back. I mean, sometimes I'll just come to my forearms for a while just to check in. Is this where I need to be? Do I need the support, not need the support? Listen to these, layers of resistance that the body's providing. It's never just physical. It's, sometimes our emotional state or just our diet or anxiety will, impact the body in a way that we don't want to push it to where we did yesterday or a week ago. We want to honor it and be like, you know what, I need a little bit more or a lot more relaxation right now than deeper into the pose. And then other times where it's like, wow, you just sort of melt into it. I just want to go back for a moment to what I was saying about this idea that I'm presenting just as an idea of exploration, that the possibility that the pain or the discomfort somehow is serving us or has served us, and there's a pattern involved. So one of the things that we can begin to explore, since we know that the body does not exist neutrally, yes, the body is so interconnected and woven into our emotional and psychological states. So when a symptom appears, whether it is an outer symptom, a situation in our life, it is something in the physical body, whatever it is, we can start to question, what is the belief? Is there a belief? Is there a pattern? Is there a judgment that is being associated with this pain that I'm feeling? And I'm suggesting this as an open-ended exploration to allow your somatic intelligence to allow you to ease into this, not as a formula, but as a very deep exploration. So when a symptom arises, whatever it is there a belief, and is that belief serving me? And am I able to sit with that belief, even if that belief is uncomfortable, not pushing anything away? So we're the sky, yeah? And the sky doesn't care if the clouds are light and fluffy and beautiful, or if they're storm clouds, because the sky knows that they will condense and they will dissipate. So thoughts and emotions and symptoms and discomfort, we are the sky, we're the essence, we're the beingness, we're the presence. And through the power of observing, after a while we get to see as all of this is playing out. All of this is playing out in my awareness, and I just allow it to condense, and I allow it to dissipate, and I get to watch this, and I get to explore this, and this is the self-inquiry. This is how we learn about ourself at this level. And of course, if you do believe that you are a cloud, then just sit with it and allow it to dissipate. And then you get to see, oh, I guess I was not that cloud. I was not that emotion. I was not that thought, who or what I am. The difficulty with this sometimes is those emotions and those thoughts come so quickly that we don't have this spaciousness. So it's lovely sometimes just to imprint. If you're having a challenging thought or a challenging emotion or challenging physical sensation, just allow that to imprint on a cloud. Sit back as the sky, sit back as the open-ended field of awareness, and watch what it does. And give yourself that space, a space in the body, a space in the mind, a space in the heart. Okay, so let's try to get out of this. If you have that left knee bent back, again, even if you're on the bolster, you can just start to roll to the right, and let's release the knee out. Yes, aye. Ooh la la. If you just have that left leg bent in front and a roll under the lumbar, you can put both feet on the floor. Again, elevate the hips, remove the roll, and let's relax. And also, if the emphasis is habitually on the center of the chest when you're breathing, you can bring it down into the solar plexus and into the lower belly. And again, just to feel the presence of the breath in these areas, and to feel if there's any, micro resistance, any anxiety woven into areas that might not have a direct physical component. And whatever it is, I've really been exploring this in my own practice, and um, I highly recommend it, that take whatever it is that's come into your field, and whatever it is, get more subtle with it. Get more subtle with it. Get more subtle with it. And the beautiful thing about this exploration is at a certain level of subtlety, it just morphs to something else. We can't even find it. We can't locate it. We can no longer put a label on it. A label, a definition is not subtle. It's concrete, we think it's real, it is what it is. But when we go into subtlety and softness and merging, we can see this incredible way that reality unfolds and just morphs into something else. Okay, so let's come on up, please. And we're going to come forward for a bit, and then we're going to go back into the backward bending to just open up the back line. But I'd like to start out with just the legs out at a nice, comfortable width. Whatever your range of motion is to open up, go to that and then back off just a couple of inches. Yeah. So we can let the hip flexors and the head of the femur relax. And then we're going to come forward here. So coming forward, you're always welcome to go to your hands or your forearms. Sometimes this allows to kind of pendulate in and out a little bit over time. Go to the forehead if you have access to that, but you're also welcome to use support. So if you want to use support, to not force and pressure and push, that's always available as well. So, be creative with your pillows, with your bolsters, whatever you need to be able to really relax the upper body. So you're not holding. We don't want to hold. We don't want to brace. We want from the toes right up to the ears and everything in between. We want to be relaxed and just let the compression of the position do what it needs to do. So we're not making it happen. It's just happening because we've put ourselves in this position. And this quality of allowing your experience to become more and more subtle, this is also how we cultivate a sense of noticing in this particular approach. And this is very, very interesting. Even just what the energy or the texture of noticing really is, because often we're so stimulated by the external environment that we don't even notice that we're noticing. It's just information, it's just data coming in, and we're just reacting. Data coming in, we're reacting. So the noticing of contemplation, the noticing at this level of yin receptivity, is actually beginning to notice what noticing is and how valuable and deep this noticing actually is. Because then yoga invites us to take another step back and notice who's noticing. So it's a beautiful exploration, and then we can start anywhere. We can start with a repetitive thought, a contraction in the lower back, something that feels like grief or sadness, and we can just start to notice it. And we can allow the layers of subtlety to soften that and become more subtle and keep noticing, and become more subtle and keep noticing. And then we can just stay on that. We can just allow that to morph and change, or we can then step back and we can notice who's noticing, and then we can notice that. And the same thing, we can get subtler and subtler with this observation, if you will. So don't minimize something apparently as simple as noticing, because it's a very a profound way to approach oneself. Okay, so let's come on up from here, if you will. I know we could just stay here for a while, but we'll come back to this, hopefully. So now what I would like to do is I would like to set up a backward bend, and I'm going to show it with a big bolster. I'm not going to show it with the pillows because I don't have access to my pillows over there, unfortunately. No, I'm just kidding. I could disturb them, but I won't. So I have a blanket, I have a towel here, I have a big bolster, and I have something for my head. What I'm going to suggest, we certainly could sit on the floor and come over this bolster horizontally, and it would be a nice deep backward bend. Yeah, so we could just do this. If you can come into this safely and relatively relaxed, then you don't need the secondary elevation here. But we're going to add a twist to this at some point. So what I'm suggesting is to put a little bit of elevation here, a little bit of padding, so it's not quite as deep as it would be. And then something for your head, maybe yes, maybe no. If you are using your pillows and blankets, then unlike the first backward bend where we had the upper body support, this is so the upper body arches back. So the shoulders are not supported. The head may be a little bit, doesn't have to be, but we want a nice deep compression into the lower and then lower mid back. Yeah, so lower thoracic and lumbar area. And then again, I could even fold this more. I might even come up a little bit higher to, oh yeah, this would be better for me, just so I can relax. We're still getting a nice arch and a lot of compression, but what I want to do at some point is we'll put the feet on the floor and then twist this, and that's has a bit of intensity to it. So let's come over something. So the shoulders are off, compression in the back. Buttocks are either on the floor or they're on a towel or a blanket to elevate the hips to take some intensity out of it. And take as much intensity out of it as you feel you need. We don't want to be bracing or have go into protection mode. So the compression will do its job. The compression will seep into the body therapeutically, and it just is a whole, cascade of things to hormones and cells and synovial fluids and fascial restriction. We don't have to worry about that. We're more interested in our ability to allow our busyness and habits and patterns and conditioning to soften a bit and just float inside this this sort of open-ended, infinite place of awareness, if you will. And usually the best gauge for this is, after a minute or so, if you're still preoccupied with the level of intensity, it's probably a little too much. So always better to come down a little. And it's amazing that sometimes when we think we've softened and nothing's happening, after 3 minutes or more, you quickly see that there's a tremendous amount happening. So just let yourself soften and relax and breathe, observe. And just to say, at the level of the fascial restrictions, I mean, in this particular approach, we could talk only about that. If we wanted to stay at a practical physical level, we could talk about fascial restrictions, obviously. And this is just the connective tissue of the body, coming out of alignment, dehydrating, tightening, and affecting organs and muscles and systems. But this has taken a while. The body contracts very slowly over time. It's not just, recognizable traumas along the way, just the fact of being alive. There's an internal process of these fascial restrictions internally tightening you. So we don't want to rush them. They will not be rushed. They will not be forced. So more important to spend the time to slow down. We're not even interested in how many postures we do in a particular practice, because wherever we compress into these fascial restrictions, the entire system is feeling the energetic reverberation. So this is what we're cultivating. We're cultivating a very deep patience with the process of allowing the body to realign and rejuvenate and rehydrate and just feel more aliveness. And this is what we can often just bring our awareness to. Bring your awareness to the nature of your aliveness. Emphasize the presence of life itself, not necessarily the life that is apparently out there, but the life that we know is in there. The pulsation and vibration of your being. Good. So if you're, again, if you're in an interesting place and you want to avoid this twist, it has a certain intensity. We won't hold it that long, but it can also be very, very therapeutic for the lumbar area. So you may want to gauge how far you let the knees go. So if you want to try it, this would be a good time to just bend the knees and put the feet flat on the floor. Yeah, so you can just keep the upper body where it is, put the feet flat on the floor, and let's let both legs go over to the right. Yeah, so this is nice in a way because it doesn't allow the left shoulder to roll just because of the weight of the shoulders over the bolster. So we'll just allow both knees to go over to the right. Make any adjustments, especially with that left foot if you need to, over to the right. And again, don't be concerned, we're not going to hold it too long, but just enjoy the intensity. If you need to back off a little bit from it or even put something under that right leg to not go too deep, that would always be your choice. And then little by little, let yourself relax. And let this be a process. It's not as if you're just in or out. Sometimes there's little adjustments that need to be made, either of the body or the way your mind is holding, or if there's fear. So just little by little, let your lower back, let your shoulders, let your jaw, let your knees, let your belly, just let everything start to relax. Good. So you can bring those knees up now and just take a moment here. Not necessary to straighten the legs out, but sometimes that's nice. If you want to straighten the legs out, you can. Or if you're ready, we'll just let the legs go over to the left this time. So again, if you need some support under that left leg this time, if you need to adjust that right foot, please do. But we'll just twist on the other side now. Emphasize the presence of life itself. And I do realize this, has there's a danger of this sounding rather simplistic or trite, but this is a very valuable shift to make because we are alive. This is the nature of this vibration is the aliveness. And when we add on the personality and the self-image and the profession and the situation and the circumstance and the challenge, these are add-ons. Yes, nothing wrong with add-ons. Good to have a life. But what we're also able to explore is life itself, the life force, the prana, ourself as energy. And we can pendulate with this. We can go back and forth with this. We can go to that level of, well, yes, I have this situation. I have this body. I have this collection of thoughts. I have a collection of knowledge. I have this self-image. I have this personality. I have a persona. And we can certainly explore that, all valid to explore, but then we can also sink below. We can go into the reality of our fundamental, basic, primal aliveness, and what does that feel like? And this is what I was saying earlier. What we're really trying to do, this game of life, is to start to explore it vibrationally, as opposed to situationally or circumstantially. And can we shift that vibration? Can we heighten that vibration? What does it feel like when that vibration contracts? Good. So let's bring those legs back up. And keep the feet on the floor. I'm going to make a suggestion here. If you would like to, and you want to just stay in the backward bend and straighten the legs out, you can. What I'm going to suggest, however, with the feet on the floor, is to just elevate the hips and push yourself back towards your head and bring the pelvis up on this, whatever you have, pillows or bolster, and then let the legs relax out. So we've come out of the lumbar and we're on the pelvis itself. Yep. You may need to wiggle a little bit to find right where that is, but pretty much if you find your hip bones and then go straight down, something should be there, the bolster or your pillows, and just let the legs relax out. And this is such a lovely relationship between that lumbar compression and now this pelvic connection. It's just so interesting to explore it. Talk about, fascial restrictions. This area is a sort of an endless pit of discomfort and something to explore. One of I think the really valuable things that the cultivation of yin, just in its essential quality, gets to offer us is that wherever we enter into this exploration, so we opened the practice, and the reading that I shared was really about bringing your awareness to be able to check in with yourself as yourself, to the awareness and the will, and how we can learn from that. So to add and to hold the container of the yin, I think it's especially important to always bring a sense of gentleness to these explorations. This is not something that we want to rush, not something that we want to turn into a hard-edged goal. That we want to learn how to temper whatever it is we're exploring with great patience and great gentleness. And this then becomes the balance of the yin energies that we live with and the yang energies. And this balance always lives within our heart, and it's a gentleness from the yin that allows us to be open and receptive to this. Good. So if you have the pelvis up on the bolstering, let's come back down. So bring your buttocks down to the floor. Notice if you haven't had any padding and you want to add some padding. We won't be here for too much longer, but enough that I would like you to be comfortable here. So whatever you need to do to come back into the buttocks on the floor, into the deeper aspect, going from the pelvis now back into the lumbar, lower thoracic area. Legs will just be straight out. Arms are just nice and relaxed. And also to explore that often this lack of gentleness, which is often something that is conditioned and programmed, and at some point served us as a protection device, but often this lack of gentleness towards ourself and our process and whatever it is we're wanting to lean into, this in itself is a form of tension. This in itself is resistance. And these turn into patterns. These turn into habits, habitual ways of being. And these patterns just, weave together to, hold the fabric of our self-image. But not necessary for it to stay that way, that we're interested in this morphing, this changeability, this intelligence of life to inform us and guide us. And this takes listening, this takes slowing down, this takes a certain kind of receptivity and patience and gentleness. And so I think this is a good time to come out of this. You can either put your feet on the floor and have some movement first. Again, go nice and slow. This is deeper than certainly the first backward bend. And you could then get ready to roll off of this if you're ready. Or you could bring your pelvis back up. And again, that begins the release of the lumbar energy. Just come out safe. And if you put the pelvis back up, you can bring the knees up to the chest. You can come into a forward bend here by bringing the knees up and over. Or just kind of sway a little bit and just kind of make it your own here. And then we'll take a rest here. So just find a very comfortable position and we'll take a rest. So take a few breaths here, and just again at the level of noticing if the breath feels a bit contracted or if it feels more expansive. And don't even try to change it. Just notice and see what the noticing does. And notice the subtlety of that, that the breath can feel contracted. And often this reflects in the mind feeling contracted, or the breath can feel increasingly expansive. And this will often reflect in the mind being expansive. But we always try to begin with just noticing. And this is really the sensitivity of the yin, is how do we, what is our direct experience when we don't try to change anything, when we just allow ourselves to deepen into our direct experience, and then let that be the guide that will naturally morph and change. And how do we allow that? So that's a really nice distinction to make, that we have practices where I want to fix this, I want to change that, I want to alter that, and on and on. And, great practices to have. But we also want to cultivate a practice where we're becoming increasingly sensitive with our direct experience. We're allowing the quality of subtlety to permeate our direct experience. And then allow the noticing to then morph into that. So we can do that with the breath. We can just start by noticing, does it feel a bit contracted and has some tension to it? Or does it feel open and expansive? And can I just feel that? Where does the breath end? Where does the body begin? Where does the breath end? Where does the mind begin? Where does the breath end? Where does the universe begin? Okay, so let's come on up from that rather lengthy rest. And we're just going to start simple here by just sitting with the legs out. This is not going to initially be about the legs. And what I would like to do, I'll turn around to show you, or maybe to the side would be better. So put the legs out and then lean back on your palms with the fingers facing back and the wrists facing forward. So very simple here. And pretty much I have my shoulders over my hips. I'm back a little bit, but that's okay. So just a little bit of angle here, just so you can rest on the palms with the fingers spread out, and then just come forward a bit so there's not a whole lot of tension, because I want you to be able to regulate this. Yeah, so if it's too much. And then very slowly, just start to lean back. So now I'm bringing my shoulders, or now they're over my elbows, they're over my wrists, and just sort of ease into basically the wrists, elbows, certainly forearms, fingers, but the complexity of the wrists, very similar to the knees and the ankles and the fascial restriction and the layering and the misalignments and the just everything. So just kind of feel this. And then if it becomes unbearable or unsafe, you just can lean forward and just release it. So this is the pendulation I've been mentioning, is going into it as deeply as you feel safe, and then coming out of it when the body's saying, no, let's release a little bit, because both of these energies are valuable. So if you can just hover a bit and be still, that's good. But then if you need to release, that's good too. And again, this is just very, very valuable. If I was going to talk more about the fascial restriction, the place of the joint is really paramount because it's so ligamented. So this is a primary place where our chi starts to, to get blocked, is the joints, because the chi, the prana, the life force, is moving through the connective tissue. It's moving through these, conduits of fascia, and where there's more fascia, more ligament, more potential for it to get blocked. So whether it's ankle or knee or upper spine or wrists, wherever we compress in and start to release, the whole body's going to feel the benefit of that. Okay, good. So let's come forward now. Enough of that, and just kind of put the hands out, open and close the fingers, just to sort of feel that, feel that the attention in the wrists, and how does it feel. And these fingers are good. It's good to have the fingers. I'm a big believer in my fingers and toes. I like them, especially if you like to snap your fingers. It's good to have them, right? Okay, so let's then put something behind you. Pillows, a couple of pillows, or the bolster about arm's distance. And so put that behind you. And then with the legs out, let's bring the left leg in. And if you can bring the right foot up onto that left calf for a nice square position, great. If this is not accessible to you, then just leave that right leg open somewhere. So we can come into open square if necessary, or we can close it up. And then before we do that, let's then take the arms and interlock the fingers and put them up onto this, whatever height you have. If this is not accessible to you, the shoulders are tight, you can just interlock your fingers behind the back. You can just put the arms back. Again, approach your body where it's resisting. And then don't force the resistance, don't resist the resistance. Use the position to find the resistance and then begin to relax. And just sit with this for a bit. And you can just sit with an amount of stillness and inner calmness. You could relax your jaw. If you're going to move the head, go slowly. And when you feel something, allow yourself to relax into it. So don't move the head to try to kind of shake the tension out. If you're going to move the head, use it to identify any tension or discomfort, and then allow yourself to become more subtle with it. And notice that it will just do something. It will dissipate. It will morph. It'll change. And then let's release the arms, hoping we have the right leg forward, a nice either open or closed square. Really and truly soften the lower back. So try not to lengthen it forward, but it's just a sinking in. Use some support up front if you need it or want it or not, and allow that lower back to, first and foremost, let it feel, let it connect with the backward bend, yeah? So don't go too fast. Again, allow yourself to soften and to become subtle and to really keep your sense of noticing, very alert. Lately, I've been trying to remember to that I don't have to believe every thought that I generate, because often it just simply may not be true. This is one of the benefits of slowing down, is we can, observe a thought, and we can be with it for a while. We can entertain the possibility that it might not be true. We don't have to believe everything that just appears. So we just allow the mind to become very relaxed, very still, and then just intuitively join it to the breath. So let's come on up from here. And let's open the legs out. And if you, absolutely feel the need for symmetry, you can do the other side of this, but I'm not going to. What I'd like to do, though, is a forward bend from a different angle. And just to say, this forward bend to me is really to be done on a daily basis, because it's so incredibly therapeutic for the endocrine system and all of the glands and the organs and your hormonal balance. So if you do nothing else, this forward bend is lovely to do. So what we're going to do is you can, there's a couple of ways to do it if you don't have access to the full position. Is just lie down and start to bring your knees up to your chest. And then where you can support yourself by putting your hands on the floor. And then if you're able to bring them up and over, so the knees come on either side of the head, you can leave the arms out, kind of hard to talk in this position, or you can interlock the fingers and bring the shoulder blades together. Yeah. But if you're feeling like that's not, at this point, it's not quite accessible, you can put your pelvis up, just like we did earlier from the backward bend. Elevate the pelvis, bring the knees up, and then you can hold on to either the blankets that you've used or the bolster, and then just bring the knees as far as you can. So this is you're still getting some of the benefits, and you're still compressing, and this is what we want. It's very compressive from the skull right down into the digestive area. So let's come on into it to whatever capacity you have. And again, this is something we won't hold too long. So it's good to know that sometimes, just so you can hold it. Don't worry about getting a lot of breath, just little sips of air are fine here. And again, not to force it, but to feel. Sometimes it's good to remind yourself that the compression is therapeutic. The compression is healthy. it's compressing and squeezing all of these organs. And then when we release, it allows them to receive healthy fluids. It allows them to have more flow, more connectivity, more information to move through them. Especially the thyroid gland, it's powerful for your metabolism. So just a little bit longer. If you need to back out a little bit or soften, again, make sure you're breathing with little sips of air. And then when you're ready, you can release out of this. Come on down, come on out, and let's move into a position of relaxation. So if you'd like a final counter pose that you feel you need for completion, please do. Any position, lying flat on your back in traditional Shavasana, if you like, child's pose, to curl on your side, cover yourself or not. So just make yourself comfortable, and we'll take a bit of time here to close our practice. Let us just take a moment to come full circle to where we opened with a genuine sense of gratitude, and knowing that all of our triumphs and all of our tribulations have brought us to this very moment, and to be able to genuinely be deeply grateful just for the fact that we exist. And we have the great privilege to continue to learn from our triumphs and our tribulations. Namaste.